Right, let's welcome Treasury dealer with Nedbank, Nosibusiso Dembe, on the program to look at the financial outlook today. We do want to look at the foreign exchange first. We soon will have a graphic growing up on screen. The United States dollar,
Thank you so much, Sfiso, and afternoon to all your viewers. At the moment, the US dollar against the SZL is currently trading at 18.6542. The pound against the SZL is at 23.8550. The euro against the SZL is at 20.8372.
Just looking at the United States dollar, Lilot Vanje, 18.6542. Is that good? Is that bad for our traders? Online bo e-commerce yathi ukuthi sebahamba embili kakhulu nanami nje khona ematekile ngiwabukile ngifuna kuwathenga online eMelika.
Yes, actually, that's right now the rand is quite strong. In comparison to the previous few weeks. So yes, if this is a good time to do that. We have seen a lot of rand strength, I think, in the past week or so, but yesterday there was US data, inflation data that was released, and we saw that the data that was released was a little bit lower than the market initially expected.
In the US?
In the US, right. Yes. And that inflation data indicated then that maybe interest rates are going to stay higher for longer to try and curb that inflation.
Do you know what is impacting that in the United States?
In all honesty, there's a lot of factors that
Right.
impact these things. Right now, inflation is just mainly it's food inflation that's quite high. And unfortunately for the consumer, that's the thing that they can't really compromise on, and it affects them even further.
It's quite interesting. But also interested in the euro. I'm big on shoes, so there's some shoes that I'm really eyeing. I'm not going to say how much they are because people are going to charge me. But just looking at the euro, what is impacting that?
So really, it's more rand strength that's happening more than euro or US dollar or GBP fluctuations, because basically right now the rand is flourishing off of the increase in the gold prices. So with South Africa being one of the biggest producers of gold in the world, when there's an increase in gold prices, naturally the rand will then strengthen. So that's why the rand is seen to be strengthening against all major currencies, including the euro that you're talking
Before
about.
we move on to commodities, it's quite interesting how Europe is showing us mixed signals with London and Frankfurt in the red currently. And one may wonder what is really impacting that. But I think with the answers that you've already provided, we do get to make sense of everything that is happening there. Let's get into commodities. We do have gold and Brent crude oil.
Okay, so in terms of gold, at the moment, gold is trading at $2,158.96 per ounce. And in terms of Brent crude, it's trading at $82.42 per barrel. On the Brent crude side, we've had not many fluctuations in the past couple of weeks. But on the gold side, you'll remember last week we were talking about having increasing gold prices. But yesterday, again, due to the inflation data in the US that was released, we then saw the gold prices start to surge and take a different turn. So we are seeing a bit of lowering in the gold prices, but of course we're still higher than we were a couple of weeks ago.
It's quite interesting, and I will want us to move on to equities. But maybe before we go there, emaswati solo nje ancindekile indzaba yokunyuka kwabo petrol engabe with this current statistics that we have, 82.42 per barrel. Are we seeing good movement lapho noma kusafuna vele ukuthi sisamukelele simo lesi for a while?
By the looks of things, Brent crude hasn't really been volatile in the past couple of weeks. It's really been trading between about $82 per barrel and maybe 83 or thereabout. So at the moment, it doesn't look like we should be expecting any significant changes. But again, markets are markets, and you never know what will happen.
That's quite painful. I think that is a painful sentiment to hear, but it's good that usitshela liqiniso singaze sidiluthe. Let's move on to equities, the S&P FTSE as well as the JSE ALSI.
Okay, so in terms of equities, we're tracking 3 indices. The first is the S&P 500, which tracks the performance of companies in the USA, the top 500 biggest companies in the USA. The second is our FTSE 100, which tracks the performance of companies in the UK. And then we have our JSE All Share Index, which tracks the performance of companies in South Africa. And at the moment, as things stand, all these indices are looking good. Performance across all the different countries seems to be good. But just to highlight, in the US, we've seen an increase in the prices of companies such as Oracle and NVIDIA. Oracle and NVIDIA recently announced that they'll be partnering to create an artificial intelligence powered cloud service platform. So with that, the prices of their shares have increased quite a bit, I think by 11% and 7% respectively. In the UK, sorry, we have seen companies overall increase in performance. And this is after data was released in the UK, GDP monthly data, indicating a marginal growth in the UK's economy of about 0.2%.
Yeah.
This is, go ahead.
Yeah, no, keep going. I'm yet to ask you. I have a question on the artificial intelligence. In fact, it's a sentiment really, but keep going. Sorry for interrupting you.
Okay. So the GDP growth that was seen in January for the UK is quite important because in December there was a bit of a contraction. So it's starting to indicate that the economy is bouncing back, and the market is viewing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how much impact does, the developments around AI impact equities? I've heard you make, the pronouncements on what NVIDIA, everything that is happening there, because this morning I was just reading a tweet by Elon Musk, funny enough, as, metaphor would have it. He's saying that AI will probably be smarter than any single human next year. And by 2029, AI is probably smarter than all humans together considered. There's a lot that is happening. It looks like particularly America, the Silicon Valley, is really, really committed in developing artificial intelligence. But for me, it's going to be smarter than all of us. But what is happening with AI? How does it really affect our equities?
So yes, you're right. AI is quite topical right now at the moment. And even in the equities market, you'll see that with AI companies like NVIDIA and related companies, their performance is really good in the equity space.
Right.
But of course, just like with every other market, things can change tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen there. I wanted to ask about the surge in oil futures and their contracts, some of the causes and impacts around those movements, if we have them already.
Okay, thanks for that. So in terms of oil, I think the biggest issue that's happening right now in the oil space is the issue of the supply and demand.
Right.
There are interventions to try and combat that from OPEC. The US has also started producing oil. They recently announced that they have smaller stockpiles in oil. So all those things really do impact oil and come down to the bottom line where it impacts the consumer.
So thank you so much for joining us on the program. We do hope that we're going to have you again next week. That was quite insightful. So we could see in babukeli bathu hotela hlelo lethu lo mohla sifuna ke kunishiya ni sale kahle.